So last night we got some unexpected NBA news. Chris Paul has been released from the Los Angeles Clippers, and really this Clippers organization just continues to embarrass itself. Chris Paul, who announced this would be his final season in the NBA, signed back with the Clippers in this offseason, essentially giving himself a farewell tour with a team who he spent his best years with. But in the midst of a 5-16 start to the season, the Clippers have decided to part ways with Chris Paul, who, must I remind you, is on a veteran minimum contract, so this basically does nothing financially for the Clippers. This doesn't free up any cap space for them. Maybe a possible explanation for this is that the Clippers are giving Chris an option to go to a contending winning team to give him more of that storybook ending for the last season of his career. But this news inspired me to make a video today talking about guys who I think are deserving of an NBA roster spot but are not currently on one. So I'll start the video with saying my first player has to be Chris Paul. Now CP obviously is a legend of the game, one of the best point guards to ever play the game of basketball. Now his production on the court nowadays is nothing compared to what it used to be. I don't really think he's that much of an impactful player anymore. However, this is his last season of his career. I think he deserves to end the season with somebody. The most likely scenario here is a contending team picking up Chris, just kind of using him in that player coach role that we've seen from a few guys before. But at the end of the day, I really just need to see Chris Paul finish his career out somewhere. Maybe he'll get that ring he's always been trying to get. Maybe the Thunder pick him up and kind of let him ride their coattails. But all of that is just a we shall see. I do think he will end up signing with someone, but that's just a wait and see kind of thing. So best of luck to you, Chris. But anyways, moving on to my next player is going to be Bol Bol. Now, Bol Bol just turned 26 years old and is currently not on an NBA roster. And this just really shows how fast the NBA moves on from guys. I feel like just yesterday he had all the hype in the world surrounding his name, and now he can't even get on an NBA roster. Bol Bol is a 7'3" small forward, power forward who played with the Suns last season. Playing 36 games with the Suns last season and starting in 10 of those games, Bol Bol averaged 7 points per game, 3 rebounds, shooting 71% on 2-pointers and 34% from 3. So clearly I don't think his talent is the question that a lot of NBA teams have with him. I think it's the claims of him being unmotivated, him not really caring too much about the game of basketball. Clearly he has the frame, he has everything that teams want in the modern NBA. But I think there is just some questions on his effort, his dedication to the game. But I am a Bol Bol believer through and through. I've been a believer of him for a long time. He's kind of bounced around the league a bunch in his career already. But I do think he will eventually get picked up by someone. I'm just not sure what that scenario even looks like at this point. But anyways, moving on to a more serious situation, let's talk about Malik Beasley. Now, obviously, this offseason, Malik Beasley went through an investigation where he was accused of illegally gambling on games that he was a part of. Now, Beasley has been proven innocent, so I'm going to stick with that narrative. I know there's still some allegations out there that he was maybe possibly a part of some of these allegations, but I'm just going to stick with the idea that he is innocent, so I will talk from that perspective. It is very unfortunate that Malik Beasley is not on our NBA roster this season. Last year, he just had one of the best years of his career. He played all 82 games for the Detroit Pistons, mostly playing that six-man role for them. Last year, Malik Beasley averaged 12 points per game, shooting 41% from 3 on over 9 attempts per night. He's a great volume shooter, the exact 3-and-D guy that all of these NBA teams want on their roster. I think the main reason why he's not on an NBA roster right now is he just missed that offseason window where teams were spending their money filling out their rosters. So there's just a lack of circulation of money within the NBA right now, and he's not going to get a contract that matches his actual value as a player. So I think Malik might be taking this year off instead of signing a longer term contract. He can kind of go out in free agency next year and get that money. But I really do feel bad for Malik Beasley. Like I said, if he is fully innocent, this is just an unfortunate situation for him, especially for a guy who's really bloomed in his role, especially in the last 2 seasons. Now, Beasley was basically replaced with Duncan Robinson in Detroit this season, and I'm interested to see if anyone is willing to bite, if he is willing to negotiate on a contract to finish this season. Like I said, a lot of teams are tied up money-wise, so he's not going to get the money he deserves. But there's obviously a ton of teams in the NBA right now that could use Malik Beasley. He's that prototypical 3-and-D guy that everybody wants. And that transitions well into my next player I want to talk about, and that is Damian Lee. Now, this one's a little less surprising that he's not on an NBA roster this season. Damian Lee is 33 years old, but for some reason, I still get that feeling he should be on an NBA roster. Damian Lee is a career 37% three-point shooter who was also on that Suns roster last season alongside Bol Bol. Now, I do want to highlight in the 2022-23 NBA season, he played 74 games, averaging about 20 minutes per night, and he shot 44.5% from deep. Like, that is not your average 3-and-D guy. That is like an exceptional efficiency level. Also, Lee has championship experience being on the 2022 Golden State Warriors team that won the finals. He's just a well-experienced guy who I also think is a decent defender. I think a lot of teams could find some value with Damian Lee on their roster this season, but he did sign an overseas contract this offseason, so I could see that playing some issues of him coming back into the NBA. But I could see some contending teams wanting Damian Lee on their roster just for some extra three-point shooting and experience off their bench, especially going into the playoffs this year. But realistically, of all the players I'm going to talk about, I think this one is the least likely to happen. I just wanted to touch on Damian Lee not being in the NBA this year. But the next player I want to talk about is Emoni Bates. And it's damn near every day at this point. I'm seeing a new graphic somewhere on Instagram of Emoni Bates dropping a 30 ball down in the G League. And I'm really just waiting for the day that Emoni gets a legitimate shot at an NBA roster. Now, obviously, Emoni Bates was stuck on the Cleveland Cavaliers for the last 2 seasons, barely scraping together any minutes, which was very understandable because Emoni's development timeline just did not match up with the Cavs' win now timeline. But then this offseason, he gets picked up by the 76ers and has yet to put on a jersey for that team this season. He's been down in the G League. I think when it comes to Emoni's game, the scoring is not the question for him. I think all of the questioning regarding him as a player comes down to his defense, some of that IQ, and really if he's going to translate into a winning player in the NBA. And a lot of that just remains unknown. We have not seen a big enough sample size from Emoni Bates. And for that reason, I want to see him get on an NBA roster, at least give him the minutes to prove the type of player that he is, and then we can make a further observation past that. But it is unfortunate to see Emoni Bates not really getting the love he deserves. I've been a huge fan of him since he came out of high school through his time at Memphis and Eastern Michigan. He's kind of been through some mountains and valleys for his career, but like I said, I do just want to see him get his shot in the league. And the next guy I want to talk about, which is probably the most egregious case of a guy not getting his shot in the NBA, is Mac McClung. I'm tired of seeing Mac McClung's yearly trot out to win the NBA dunk contest. He's done that the last 3 seasons, and in that time, he's barely spent any time with an NBA team. Right now in the G League this season, Mac McClung is averaging 21.5 points per game, 6.5 assists, and almost 4 rebounds, shooting almost 50% from the field and 45% from 3. So can someone please explain to me how this dude is not on an NBA roster? It just makes no sense to me. I think Mac McClung has made all the right decisions as a player. He's proved himself time and time again in the G League. I really just want to see him get his shot for an entire season on an NBA roster with some sort of role. He was picked up by the Indiana Pacers earlier this season for about 2 games before he was quickly waived and sent back to the G League, where he's now playing with the Windy City Bulls. So free my man Mac McClung. We're pulling for you, bro. Your time is coming, but honestly, at this pace, I don't know if it is. It's just unfortunate to see. Shout out to Mac McClung, still just doing his thing, staying solid. But with that, that is my 6 guys right now who I want to see on an NBA roster this season. Did I miss any guys? Make sure to let me know in the comments. Please consider subscribing if you like these kinds of videos. And with that, that's everything I have for today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.